My soul is longing for your peace, near to you, my God. Within the Church. Our life as Franciscans must be a life lived within the Church. The continuing presence keeps nourishing us. Francis, first of all, withdraws to become more aware of the presence of God. As he grows through this silent solitude, communing with God, he returns to the world. As his awareness of God's presence grows, he goes into a chapel where God's love overwhelms him in a moment of ecstasy. He wants to become ever more deeply identified with Christ crucified. This was the result of his experience of the crucifix in San Damiano. Christ crucified is the heart of Francis's spirituality. Is Christ crucified the core of our spirituality? Francis found the way to follow Christ at the Porziuncola. Although he found Christ at San Damiano, each one of us, as followers of Francis, must be a reflection of the Church. Companions came to Francis at the Porziuncola. Francis came back here many times. Chapters of the friars were held there. They went from here to proclaim the gospel. It is to the Porziuncola that Francis returned to die. It was here he gave us his prayer, the Canticle of the Sun. The Porziuncola was the third chapel he had reconstructed. Francis's piety was revealed by rebuilding the chapels. Why does Francis have this devotion? In 1206, the churches in Assisi were under interdict. The churches were all closed. The sacramental system fell apart. Chapels were abandoned. Ecclesial awareness was at a low ebb. Pope Innocent III eyed Assisi as a buffer between the Empire and the Vatican state. The moral state at the time was terrible. Both the world and the Church were in a bad way. Francis could see all of this. There were some signs of spiritual renewal. In 1059, the Synod of Rome had called for the Gregorian reform. This was beginning to show some effects. The historical Jesus was the model held up. A theology of renewal and reform began. The laity became excited, not so much the clergy. Groups began to form. These groups were gospel-centered forms of lifestyle. Some were the poor men of Lyon, the Humiliati. They were itinerant preachers. Sadly, they were self-destructive. They refused to recognize the presence of the clergy. They rejected the ecclesiastics and also the sacramental system. They were declared heretical. Francis, the visionary, sees beyond all this turmoil. He has great faith in the clergy and reverences them. His love and devotion to the Eucharist is the basis of his reverence. He wrote 6 letters about the Eucharist. His Eucharistic devotion springs from his love of the Incarnation. The Spirit enables us to understand the Incarnation. The Spirit enables us to look upon the Eucharist as the continuing presence of Christ. It is the Spirit of the Lord in us that received Jesus Christ's body and blood in the Eucharist. The Eucharist is at the heart of the Church. Francis comes to the Church. He shows his humble devotion to the Church. Francis came to hold the church up. He invites all his followers to do likewise. Our call is to renew the church. We do this by being Christ's presence in the world today. We are called to be people of the church, to remind the church of the greatness to which it is called. We are to live intensely. We are the only presence of God many people will ever encounter. How do you respond to this?